Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Golden Gate Center for Spiritual Living. It looks like it's going to be a small club this morning, although I know from experience that many people, like me, when I'm not on, arrive late. So by the time we're finished with the meditation, lots more people will be here. But for now, I'm Reverend Mary Murray Shelton. I still will be after they arrive as well. I am the community spiritual leader here at Golden Gate Center for Spiritual Living. We are on the Thanksgiving weekend, moving toward Christmas now, so it's also the first Sunday of Advent. And I just want you to know how very welcome you are this morning, and I'm glad that you're here. Those of you online, I feel the same way about you. You know, we can see you, so behave yourselves. We're going to begin this morning by having people say good morning to each other. So now that you've found your place to sit and you've got everything put down and all of that, stand up and walk around and say good morning. Introduce yourselves to people you don't know. Welcome folks back you haven't seen in a while, and just make each other welcome. And those of you online, please know that you are welcome here. And we are so delighted that you're joining us this morning from a distance. Thank you for doing that, for remembering, for tuning in, and happy Thanksgiving weekend and first Sunday of Advent. I'll be right back with you in just a few seconds. It's supposed to be Sarah, but she's not here. Yes, thank you, Rick. Okay, dear ones, come on back. All right, find your way back. Reverend Christy Snow is back with us as our guest musician via video this morning. And she's got some wonderful songs for us as usual that are relatively easy for us to sing. I want to remind you that Reverend Christy is a singer-songwriter, of course. She's also the founding minister at the Carolina Center for Spiritual Living in Charlotte, North Carolina. And she travels internationally sharing her music as a guest speaker and a retreat facilitator. She's got a lot of heart, Christy. Now, if you want to find out more about her, you can go to the Center for Spiritual Living in Charlotte, North Carolina, to their website, or you can go directly to christysnow.com to find out more about her and hear more of her music. So please stand now and join us in the opening song, All Is Well.
Good morning, Golden Gate Center for Spiritual Living. It's so great to be back with you again. This is a song written by my good friend, Reverend Dale Worley, where we remind ourselves that all is well in our world. All is well in my world. All is well.
is well in my world. All is well in my world. All is well. All is well in my world.
That's our prayer this morning. All is well.
All is well in my world.
So we're grateful that all is well. All is well in my world.
Yes. Yes, you can applaud, and please go ahead and be seated. I'm going to invite you now to silence your cell phones. You don't have to turn them off, but just put them on vibrate. Do not disturb, however you do that with your particular phone. And that way we'll have the voice of Spirit coming to us directly and not through a speaker. So we're enjoying the morning here together today, and we're going to prepare our inner selves now for the morning by inviting up our morning prayer practitioner to do that. So Rick Walt is going to come up and pray us in. My goodness.
Hello? Oh, there we go. Good morning.
Good morning.
So I invite everyone to just do what you do to get centered. For me, I'm going to take a deep breath, close my eyes, become fully present in this moment. And right here, right now, I acknowledge that God is all that there is. Be it the thought that created the air conditioning that's creating the circulating air in the room, the very chairs that we are sitting on, or the technology to create this service to be transmitted across the air to everyone at home. That is all God. Of course, a beautiful planet that we reside, Earth, is created in the eyes and mind of God. The very creative law itself, created by God. And so right here, right now, I call forth the energy of love and community right here, right now, in this room and wherever the people are at home. Knowing indeed that love is one of the greatest qualities of God, and that we exhibit that quality in our lives and open our hearts to receive the word from Reverend Mary this morning, lovingly accepted. For that is God speaking to us and embracing us today with this service and these words. And I now put these words into that creative law, knowing indeed that the seeds of consciousness have already been planted, and the Spirit is doing the work as I speak. And together we say, and so it is.
Thank you, Rick.
The heart, even if you have those spaces and places where maybe it was closed off. And I also like to remember that we help each other to open up our hearts. So this is a relatively new song called Spaces. In a suitcase somewhere, there's a tiny ray of hope. I remember down through the garden by the roses on a twisted vine. Yeah, I remember through the rocks and the rivers to a place of time left behind. We walk together in spaces. We walk through abandoned places. What have we forgotten? What have we lost? All these abandoned spaces, places of the heart. What needs forgiving? What's falling apart? Cracks in the ceilings, cracks in the heart. We walk together in spaces. We walk through abandoned places. Together in spaces. My heart packed away. There's a tiny ray of light. I can see her. I remember. Hold out your hand and I'll take it. It's all here now. We can make it. We walk together in spaces. We walk through healing places. We walk together in spaces. We walk through healing places. We walk in spaces. We walk in spaces. We walk, we rise.
Yes, thank you, Coco. That was the end of the song. So we've been this year living from the heart of wonder and coming back to that idea again and again. Certainly this season, once we hit Halloween, we go into a kind of a mysterious, mystical yumminess for the rest of the year. And you can see that that's true here too. It's snowing inside, even though we're not very likely to see it happening outdoors around here. But we are enjoying the turning into the holiday season right now. And during this month of November, my theme has been coming home to your heart. And I talked about how we get disconnected from parts of ourselves when we're kids because we're trying to be safe. And that serves us well for a while. But then as we get to be older and older, when we anchor those things and keep doing them, we discover they don't work very well, and we need to go back and retrieve those parts of ourselves that we kind of let go of or sent away or put to sleep or that escaped because of whatever, that it's time to recall those so that we can come into our lives whole and complete. And that one of the ways of doing that is to create an inner sanctuary for ourselves that is completely safe, where we recognize we can invite all the parts of ourselves home and be in a secure, safe, peaceful, beautiful environment. So I invited people to create inwardly for themselves any kind of beautiful environment that would be your sanctuary, your own safe space. And today we come into this pre-Christmas season that in Christian traditions is called Advent. And I always like to light the Advent wreath when we get into the Advent season, although usually I forget to do the first Sunday because it happens in November. And it doesn't seem like Christmas time yet to me, particularly on Thanksgiving weekend. But this year I remembered. So I'm going to light the first candle in the Advent wreath. And this candle is a purple one. The very first candle of the season represents hope. Oops. So hope is that quality of looking forward, looking ahead with an openness, a welcomingness. It's not a certainty, hope, but it is an optimistic perspective. It is an uplifting perspective. And this little story, I think, comes from somebody with an uplifting, hopeful look toward the future. This old Doberman had been out chasing rabbits when it dawned on him that he was lost. And as he was wandering around trying to find his way through the woods, he saw a lion heading right for him, very purposefully looking at him. And he thought, oh, I'm in trouble now. But he noticed some bones on the ground nearby, and so he quickly settled down with his back toward the lion and began gnawing on these bones. And then just as the lion was about to pounce, the old Doberman said loudly, "That was one delicious young lion, but I'm still hungry. I wonder if there are any more around like him." Well, the young lion was surprised and somewhat alarmed and confused, but he stopped in mid-stride and slipped away into the trees. And the lion thought, boy, that was close. That old lion would have had me. Well, a squirrel who had been watching this whole scene from a nearby tree figured that he could put this knowledge to good use to protect himself from the lion. And so he caught up with the lion and he told him the whole story of what he'd seen and what he'd heard, and he struck a deal with the lion for his safety. And the lion was absolutely furious of being made a fool of, and so he said to the squirrel, "Hop on my back so you can see exactly what's going to happen to that conniving canine." Well, the old Doberman saw the lion returning with the squirrel on his back, and he thought, oh no, what am I going to do now? So, knowing that he could not possibly outrun the lion, he sat down again with his back to the lion, approaching, pretending that he hadn't seen them. And just when they got close enough to hear, the Doberman said aloud in an irritated voice, "Where is that darn squirrel? I'm famished. I sent him off at least an hour ago to bring me another lion." Hopeful. The story doesn't say what happened next, but I'm assuming he got away with it. Pretty clever old thing. So when we're looking ahead, hopefully, we may take all kinds of strategies to help ourselves and make things turn out well. Today we're talking about transforming the home of the heart. So last week I talked about creating that inner sanctuary, and that's the beginning of transforming that space. And it's important for us to recognize that one of the things that happens to us with that inner space is that it doesn't just open and then stay open. You know, sometimes it closes partially, sometimes it closes completely, sometimes it gets stuck for a while. That's kind of the nature of the heart. Now, as we call those missing pieces back to ourselves, we may find that we have more heart available to open, more courage available for that heart to stay open longer, to be more resilient to the pain or the challenges that come and go with our lives. Ernest Holmes wrote in Anatomy of Healing Prayer, "I don't care who he is or where he came from, what she does or what she believes. Fundamentally at the root of all their concepts of life is their conscious or unconscious sense of relationship to the universe, whether they're at home in it and secure with it or not." So our sense of that, our concept of that, the way that we interpret the experiences that we've had in life, our idea of our relationship to the universe, however positive or negative it is, it colors and becomes the root of our experience of our relationship. So when we want to transform the home of the heart, we have to first recognize what is the nature, the real nature, the original nature of the heart. And we know that it is one, it's integral, it's integrated with everything. It is one with. The true nature of it is to be belonging, to be fearless, to be unconditionally loving and peaceful. And I sometimes feel like when we see the tiniest little children, when they're just beginning to walk and talk, what we notice about them is that they are curious about everything. They are welcoming and open to everyone, including dogs and cats whose faces they get into and sometimes suffer for it. They are fully themselves without apology because they don't have that sense yet of being embarrassed in their self-consciousness, in their self-awareness. They're just being themselves, and they're naturally, usually inclined to share their food or whatever with a friend. They'll stick a popsicle in your mouth, or, they're very inclined to interact with other people in a way that includes all of these qualities. So it's only after they have lived for a while that they begin to shut down. I'm using some quotes that I used earlier this month because I want to bring them back. Clarice Spector, who's a Brazilian novelist, said, "Everything began with a yes. One molecule said yes to another molecule, and life was born." So we as little children, our inclination is to always say yes to everything that we're interested in, to everything we want, to everywhere we want to be, to everybody we want to connect with, no matter what package they appear in, however large or small. We haven't learned to be afraid of spiders or anything at that stage. So we're welcoming until people have said no to us a lot, and then we start to say no also, which is necessary. It's very important to have boundaries. But at the beginning, we say yes to everything. Sue Monk Kidd said, "Unraveling external selves and coming home to our real identity is the true meaning of soul work." And soul work is what we are about. It's about rediscovering, re-employing, re-engaging with our original self. This is the self that came into this life as an infant when it was necessary to forget all the details of whoever and whatever we'd been before. And yet the essence was alive in us until we began to learn the ways of the world, and we felt it was necessary to make some adaptations. With me here so far? Yes? Okay, good. Wasn't sure I heard a response to that. Was like, maybe I need to back up and move on. I talked about a few weeks ago, or maybe it was last week, how important it is in this pathway back to ourselves to get lost, to actually lose track of what it was we were doing, to lose perspective about the goal, to get distracted by things and wander off into odd little nooks and crannies and corners and places. James Taylor has a song where he says something about, and I find myself in places where I should not let me go. And so when we get lost in those places, our tendency, having lived in the world for a long time, is to think of ourselves as having failed or being sinful or making mistakes that are somehow unforgivable or irreparable, or we're afraid to try and repair them, or we just don't know how. And that being lost is actually an essential part of the journey back to discovering our essence. That it isn't a mistake, it is getting off the path in order to become more aware of how important the path is to us. And so when we come back to it, we have a renewed vigor, a renewed commitment, a renewed intention, and we're stronger than we were before we wandered away. And sometimes that strength is the very thing that we need. So Thoreau said, the only people who ever get any place interesting are the people who get lost. Because we're much more interesting having had those experiences when we come back to the path. Why? One reason is we're wiser. Hopefully we've learned something from those detours. And secondly, we often can be, if we let ourselves, be more compassionate because we know how easy it is to wander away and get lost and what kind of mistakes can come up from being out there. So even though those mistakes serve us, and they really do, when we're in the midst of them, we would often say afterwards, looking back, I'm not sorry that happened, but I would never want to go back there and experience that again. Anybody else have that perspective about things that you've done or things that have happened to you? I know that there are things that I look at and I say, gosh, it would be lovely to be that age again. And then when I think about it more, I think, yeah, but these things happened when I was that age, and I wouldn't want to repeat those. So I guess I'm glad that I'm where I am, because I made it through all that, and now I have some perspective about it that I can use in my life. Errol Ozen said, some beautiful paths can't be discovered without getting lost. So some of those detours take us into places that deepen us, that reveal things to us that we would not have encountered or become aware of or understood if we just stayed one foot in front of the other on the path. And really and truly, if that was the reason for being here, if that was what our souls were here to do, we probably wouldn't need to come at all. Because what would be the point? We'd just be living what we already knew, step after step. It would be boring. So part of what's exciting about coming to this life and doing this is that we don't know what's going to happen. It's all up in the air. It's all dependent upon not only our choices and our actions and our thoughts, but the interpretations we give to those things, which give us our sense of meaning about them. Yes? Yes. So when we come into life, we get this sense that we have to protect ourselves from being embarrassed, from looking bad, from being rejected, from being punished or corrected, from feeling stupid. I have a video of my grandson when he was a little toddler, and he was just at the age in between being absolutely free about everything and starting to notice there were things that felt a little uncomfortable for him. And I can remember that he said something. I was asking him questions like, where's Daddy? Where's Nana? And he would point and say, there's so-and-so, it's a Daddy. And at one point there was something I needed to correct just slightly, and I said it back to him, and there was a moment on his face where he looks disappointed in himself. And then he kind of regroups and gets back into his regular essence toddler self. But that's a moment I can see where there's a point that's turning in his sense of being embarrassed about himself that he did not have maybe the day before. So once that happens, then we start to get cautious. We start to get careful. We start to get defensive. We want to protect ourselves from those moments of being uncomfortable or embarrassed. I learned when I was married before, in my husband's family, his dad was a retired Air Force colonel. And if you were going to rant and rave about something political, you better know what the hell you were talking about, or you were going to find out pretty quickly that you did not know what you were talking about, at least from his perspective. And that taught me to keep my mouth shut about things I had opinions about when I didn't have facts to back them up. Do you know what I mean? I'm sure you do. I'm sure you do. How many of you ever struggled with math? Anybody in here a math phobic? So I have a theory about math, and the reason that it gets difficult for us. Because once in a while, we intuitively have a sense of how to get someplace, but you don't get full credit in math unless you can show your work, unless you can show exactly how you got to that conclusion. Now, if you're going to be an engineer, that's pretty important. But if you're a kid, your intuition is at least as important as your ability to be an engineer, because maybe you're not going to be an engineer. So when you find your way to something somehow, and you're not quite sure how, but it's correct, and then you discover you're going to get marked off because you couldn't show how to get there, then we become obsessed with the steps, with making sure each step is solid, each step is guaranteed, each step is proven before we go forward. Now that makes us more equipped to be engineers maybe, but it also shuts us off from that intuitive place. Now I can't blame math entirely for that, and maybe it's not at fault at all, but since I'm somebody who has trouble with math, it's easy for me to blame something, so I pick math, right? If English is hard for you, I'm sure you can find a way to make this story work with English, or whatever it is, you know? Ramdas said, coming into the place of soul awareness is coming home. So what does it mean then to come to a place where you'd normally be embarrassed by somebody responding to something you've said with an indication that clearly you're not correct about that? When you start to feel embarrassed or defensive about that, if we become aware that we're having that feeling, then we can also recognize that we tend to feel that toward the person who provided the correction, even though we now have more information, and that it really isn't anything wrong with them at all, any more than it's something wrong with math. It really is my response to it that isn't serving me. I'm uncomfortable with this feeling, but it's not their fault that I'm feeling that. They can't make me feel something. It emerges from my own habit, my own pattern. So then I can look at that and think, what do I need? What does this little soul need right now in order to feel okay with having been in error about that? Because it isn't really very important anyway. And when I get a hold of that idea, I can begin to recognize what's valuable about me, and that feeling of defensiveness and resentment or anger or blame starts to diminish and dissolve. Now, that would be great if I could do that every time. That's not the case, but I have found that when I do that, when I remember to do that, when I'm willing to do that, it works. But it seems necessary to protect us. That's why we gather all that stuff. And as Byron Katie says, just keep coming home to yourself. After all, you're the one you're looking for. You're the one you're really looking for. The essence, when we are in any of the spiritual traditions, when we think we need to follow a particular avatar or guru or master teacher or enlightened soul or savior or whatever, by any name or tradition, what we're really trying to do is connect ourselves back to our own essence, the truth of who we are. The challenge is that with all of those great ones, we instead see the contrast between them and us and think, I'm being asked to emulate this one, and I can't possibly live up to that. But that's not really what we need to do. What we really need to do is recognize that and remind ourselves that that is in us. Not that we have to perfectly manifest it, but that we need to honor that somewhere in us, that same presence, that same wisdom, that same integrity of being connected to it all is right there. It never left us. We can't lose it. We only lose awareness and connection with it, but it's always there. Is this making sense? What I'm saying? You're with me? Yes? Hello? Okay, good. So what happens when we're trying to protect ourselves is the life gets smaller. Love gets conditional. It's withheld to a certain degree until there's safety, and then it gets put out there. We become more fearful, more cautious, more worried, or more distrustful in that defensive process. And so what it does is it makes us and our life smaller. So in that moment, if I can remember that I don't want to make myself smaller, then when I feel that discomfort, I can maybe more easily convince myself to shift gears into, okay, now what do I know is valuable and true about me? How can I come back into touch with what's real, despite of this little tributary that went off astray somewhere, right? We want to come back to our home. So we know, in coming back to our home, that it's within us already, and we carry it with us no matter when it is or where we are. We always have it with us. So we're never actually separated from the home of the heart or the home of the infinite. Years ago, I had a board member who came up with the phrase, the natural home of God is within the heart of every person. The natural home of God. And so we come back to that place within us that's right there, wherever we've been. As we take these kinds of actions that cause us to go deeper, to navigate deeper, we begin to rediscover the elements of ourselves that we'd lost track of. We begin to discover greater ease, more peacefulness, less defensiveness, more laughter, more ease. And when we do that, then we're living from the heart. Ram Dass says we're all just walking each other home, back into our own recognition of our essence, and we're walking each other because it's really helpful to be inspired by other people, to let their light or their example be an inspiration to us that is a reflection that allows us to see who we are in that process. And when we're doing that, then we are back home in the heart. We've come back home to our heart. Ernest Holmes says in the very first book he ever wrote, Creative Mind, Ernest Holmes, the founder of Centers for Spiritual Living, he says, your destiny is eternal and your home is everlasting heaven. He doesn't mean everlasting heaven someday, pie in the sky when you die, you're going to get there if you're good. What he means is everlasting heaven is already here. And part of our experience of that depends upon our interpretation of what is happening. So that when difficulties happen in our lives, if our interpretation is, this is an invitation for me to come back to myself, to allow love to come in, rather than to put up the walls and block, to put down the drawbridge, to open the windows, to allow, and to allow ourselves to be okay with the difficulty or the pain or the error or whatever it is, to be with that experience without condemning it, to actually invite it to show us a blessing in the process. So I want to share just a little thing with you that comes from Christopher Vogel's book, A Practical Guide to Joseph Campbell's The Hero with 1,000 Faces. He's providing a little summary of what is a hero's journey. Now, some of these elements can get rearranged, some of them repeat, but in our own lifetimes, every one of us walks the hero's journey. And at the end of the journey, the hero comes home. But when the hero comes home, back to the ordinary world, something is brought along. So this is what he says. The hero comes back to the ordinary world, but the adventure would be meaningless unless he or she brought back the elixir, treasure, or some lesson from the spiritual world. Sometimes it's just knowledge or experience. But unless he comes back with the elixir or some boon to mankind, he's doomed to repeat the adventure until he does. And then he says, many comedies use this ending, as a foolish character refuses to learn his lesson and embarks on the same folly that got him into trouble in the first place. Most situation comedies are based on this. When you watch a series, you see characters whose personalities cause them to do the same kind of strategy over and over again that never works. And it's just like watching ourselves or anybody in our lives and thinking, oh, there they go again. You know, oh boy, I thought we were done with this, but there they go again. And we do the same thing, and probably our friends and relatives look at us and think, oh, okay, well, back to that. Okay, fine. He says sometimes the boon is a treasure won on the quest, or love, or just the knowledge that the special world exists and can be survived. Sometimes it's just coming home with a good story to tell. And that, I think, is brilliant. A good story to tell. See, we are coded somehow to love the story. Even with ancient tribes that had no technology, they would gather together in their structures at certain times of day or in the evening or in the middle of the night and tell each other stories. In Australia, the Aboriginal people in some of the tribes, I don't know if this is everywhere, have a tradition of community dreaming, so that in the middle of the night, they wake up, they come together in their meeting place, and they share the dream, the shared dream, and they make interpretations of the guidance of that shared dream, bringing the elements together. It's kind of like what we do with visioning, in a sense. And then they go back to sleep for the rest of the night. But they have this tradition. Native American traditions, they would get into their tents, their teepees, or wapitis, or whatever they're called, depending on the group, and they would tell stories. And the whole tribe would come together for that. And the children would be on the floor, and everybody would laugh and cry and be entranced by the story. In the Celtic lands, they had bards. And their jobs were to memorize the stories of the people, the histories and the news, and to go and to give those to the people in a way that was not only informative, but entertaining or touching or uplifting. So today we use stories in TikTok. Every little video is a miniature story. Facebook, how many times are people posting what they did that day or what they had for dinner or, just ordinary, but they're the stories of their lives. Every movie we watch, every game we play, there's a story involved. You might say that 99% of our life is actually a story that we're inhabiting for that moment. So the story of your life is whatever your name is called. That's the story. And you've been making this story up for many decades now. Where the story goes from here is up to you. You totally get to choose the rest of the story and design it and create it and live it and experience it and tell your descendants and your ancestors too, I guess, about it. Anybody in here do genealogy research on your family? No, not too many of us, but those are stories. It's important to tell each other the stories of where we came from, to tell our children and their children, if they have them, where we came from as people in this lineage, in this family tree. Because there are things in there that are funny, things in there that are scary, things in there that are inspiring or uplifting, and that's part of our story too. That's part of what we carry in us. So let's take this now into the place of prayer. I invite you to close your eyes and turn within. All the possibilities of everything that can be already are present in the infinite. The potential in the unseen is unlimited. anything can be brought forward into experience in one way or another. And we are made of this possibility, this potential, this awareness, this capacity to bring forward what we focus our attention and awareness on again and again. This is what we're made of. There is, in this moment, right where we are, infinite potential. Nothing has diminished. There is infinite potential to heal, to learn, to love, to grow, to discover, and to appreciate. And as we are grateful, the very value of what we're grateful for expands, it appreciates, it grows even more. We are so grateful to know that this ability is ours. We're grateful to know that we are not these bodies, we're not even this history, and yet we take the richness of the experience that those have provided for us, and we allow that wave to carry us forward into this first week of Advent, into the rest of this Thanksgiving weekend, into this coming season with memory of story, with love, with deep appreciation for the essence of who we are as individualizations of the One. And in this self-appreciation, more and more is deepened and revealed that is fulfilling and joyful and full of peace. We invite that right now into our hearts, into our awareness, into our experience. We invite that for ourselves individually and collectively, and for all our dear ones, wherever they may be, including in the past, present, and future. With great gratitude, then, we send this word into the creative law, unbound by time or space, unbound by conditions. We send this word into the law and let it go, allowing the law to take it and to manifest in cooperation with that blueprint. We let this prayer go then, and we simply let it be. And for that reason, it is so, as we say together, and so it is. Yes, and so it is. Please stand and join me in the morning affirmation. No matter how long my heart has been partially closed, I can choose to reopen it. Love is my true nature and the true nature of being. Love attracts more love and inspires more love. I choose to give from my heart now and watch it blossom more and more fully. And so it is. You may be seated. I want to invite our ushers to come forward now as we prepare to receive the offering. And you can text to donate if you want to. That number is on the screen. I just want to remind you, too, that we are going to give a gift to Heifer International this year with all the work that they do. You can Google them if you want to see more about what they do. But it's a tremendous organization. If you would like to contribute to Heifer International, we would ask you not to divert your Sunday gift to Golden Gate, because that's not the idea. But if you would like to give to Heifer International, I'm going to invite you to put your money in a giving envelope or to write a check and put it in the coffee or suggestion box, whichever one is over there by the coffee this morning. Just put it in there. And in the memo or on the envelope, write for Heifer, Heifer, all right? And we will see how much we bring in that we can then send out from Golden Gate to donate to everybody. Yeah, Paula.
Since we sent out the envelope in the mail, can we just put it in the offering if we have that envelope?
If you have an envelope, you can just put it in the regular offering, just write Heifer on it. That's fine. Yeah, absolutely. Yes, Claudia. Heifer International is an organization that provides various types of livestock to people in developing countries who live in very poor communities. So for example, if they give a family a cow, they train them how to take care of the cow, how to milk it, everything that it needs, and then the people can sell the milk or give the milk away to other people in their community. If they get, if somebody else gets a bull or they have a cow and a bull, they can sell the calves or give them to other people in the community, so that it helps to not only bring in more income, but it also helps them in terms of their diet. And so they do this with chickens, they do it with pigs, they do it with ducks, they do it with bees, they do it with rabbits. Yeah, so there's all kinds of things depending upon where the family lives and what will sustain that particular animal. They teach them how to be beekeepers, or they give them plants or seeds and teach them how to farm that. So it's a tremendous program. And they often partner with congregations at this time of year to give, larger gifts that are more animals to more places, or more animals to one particular place, or whatever they need. So we're participating in that this year, and if you like, please give to Heifer. All right, thanks for the question. So as we prepare to bless the offering that we're giving today, let's keep in mind that we're blessing all those places and people that have a little bit less, as we bless the offering to go out and do its best in the world. So I invite you to join me. Hold your offering near your heart. Hold it in your hands if you're giving it with a loved one. If you're here for the first time, your presence with us is your gift. So the rest of us, let's bless this by saying, "This gift I give is God in action. I now send it forth to bless and to prosper. I know that everywhere it goes, it is creating a world living in love, one heart and one thought at a time." And so it is. Please go ahead.
There's a place we can go to, whatever race or creed, a place we can go to, together you and me, a place we can go to stand in unity, hand in hand together, for all the world to see, and that place is love. Choice to go to fear and hatred, or to give love a voice. Now is the time to stand in our belief and to hold in our minds what we want to see. So I stand in love. I stand in has begun. So I stand in love. I stand in love. I stand in love. In the consciousness of my heart. Stand in love. We stand in love. We stand in love. We stand in love. In the consciousness of our hearts. In the consciousness of our hearts. In the consciousness of our hearts. We stand in love.
Hi there. So we do now, all of us together, on behalf of Golden Gate Center for Spiritual Living, accept this offering with great love and gratitude. And we send it out into the world to open hearts everywhere that it goes, beginning in this room with ours. And so it is. Now, if you happen to be with us today for the first time, or if you were with us before, but you never got your booklet because we ran out of books, here's what I'd like you to do. If you're here for the first time, please fill out this blue card that you'll find in the welcome packets back on this table. Amanda's going to hold one up right now. They say welcome right on them. The blue card, if you fill it out and give it to her, she's going to give you a free book. And that's our gift. That is a thank you for being with us and also our invitation to come back. We'd love to see you often in the future. But one way or another, use this little book and let it help support you through those times when you need a reminder. I want to thank everybody who participated this morning and thank the community center for the holiday decorations that are standing up now, even though this tree has got some interesting lighting happening with it. But we're really grateful for the festivities and the levity and the beauty of the space. And I want to thank everybody from our teams who helped put everything together this morning. So let's give them all a hand. Next Sunday is our holiday art, craft, and gift fair. Woo! Now, you only have until the 1st of December to let Sophie know if you want to participate as a vendor. And you may have forgotten to email her. It's only $10 for a table. So I want you to all turn and look at this very tall woman standing back here. This is Sophie. If you would like to participate as a vendor, have a table for selling your arts and crafts and things next week, please talk to Sophie. And at the very latest, get your info to her by the 1st of December, because this is the 4th of December, and we need to know how many tables to set up. Yeah, Sophie? If you're here, tell me today. And Kate today, that would be great. Yeah, if you can tell her today, that'd be great. And hopefully we'll have everybody on her list all set by the end of the day today. That would be the best. All right. Also, you know this. We love to have folks to hand out our bulletins and greet us and make us feel like they're glad that we showed up. You can be one of those people. You will get to know other people in the congregation as well as people on your Sunday team. And you'll be doing the greeting, you'll be receiving the offering, putting out the snacks, putting the snacks away too. But talk to Paula Yu this morning. Paula, would you stand up? She's usually in the kitchen when I say this. So that's Paula. Now, Paula is the one you want to talk to. Yay, Paula. Paula is the coordinator of all the Sunday teams, the hospitality teams I call them, but the Sunday teams, and she can tell you everything about it. It's just one Sunday a month, so we encourage you to find out more about that. This week, or this month, or going into December, but anyway, this week, we're starting to go back to some of our favorite tips from this past year. Every Sunday, there's been a climate action tip, every single Sunday. And so today, we're talking about how important conserving water is, not just because it conserves water, but also because it saves energy. 1/5 of the energy that this state uses has to do with water systems, with pumping water to the house, or with sending it off to water treatment plants, which use a lot of energy in the process. So just be mindful of what you use in your home and in your garden so that we can conserve. Make sure you stay hydrated, but so that we can conserve the water and thereby the energy. And I do want to remind you, what date do we have on for the food bank this month, Ellen? It's December 13th. I didn't do a slide this morning. If you're interested in helping the food bank, and this is a really important month for the food bank, it couldn't be more important, please talk to Ellen this morning so that she can get your information so that the food bank can let you know what you need to know before you come. It's very important to them to get all the volunteers' contact information and names at least a week, usually 10 days before the event. So please talk to Ellen. She's in a red turtleneck. You won't have any trouble finding her at all. And this morning, Dana is at the practitioner table all by himself. He wasn't even the person who was scheduled to be there this morning. You might have noticed earlier on my little credits that it was kind of mixed up this morning from what it was supposed to be, but Dana is there. So if you would like a prayer this Thanksgiving weekend, please talk to Dana following the service, and he will do one for you. Or you can put a request in the box, or you can make a request on the website under the Resources tab. So now let's move to, oh yeah, Paula? I don't know. You can ask Sophie that, though, when you talk to her. No, not this year. So Heifer Project is our big giving thing. Yeah. Great. So if you want to give to Homeward Bound, write a check to them and give it to Sophie. That'd be great. All right, please stand and join us for the benediction and closing. I now walk, so that whoever walks beside me dwells in the presence of God, and whoever places a hand in mine is lifted, and whoever thinks of me is illumined with God consciousness, for spirit and all people and I are one eternally. And so it is. And here is our closing song, and it's called I Am Enough.
Thank you, Ann, for having me as part of the service this morning. What a great reminder to move through the world from our open, transformed heart. I'm filled with joy, peace, and happiness as I move through love in every step. It's easy to do when I choose to know I am enough, and so are you. Sing it with me one more time. I'm filled with joy, peace, and happiness as I move with love in every step. It's easy to do when I choose to know I am enough, and so are you. I 'cause we are love. We are love.
I know.
'Cause we are love. You are love and you are loved by me. Thank you so much. Have a great day.
Woo-hoo-hoo.